Here's something that almost never happens in television. A show runs out of source material, leaves the safety net of its original story behind, starts writing completely new adventures for its characters, and gets better. Not just a little better. Measurably, noticeably, critically better. Audiences grow. Ratings climb. The creative team finds a confidence they didn't fully have when they were adapting someone else's work. It sounds like the kind of thing that shouldn't be possible because adaptation is supposed to be the safety net, right? You have a proven story. You have built-in audience familiarity. You have a roadmap. And yet, with A Night Agent, the roadmap turned out to be the thing that was holding it back. Let's start at the beginning, because the origin story of this show is genuinely interesting. The Night Agent premiered on Netflix in March 2023, based on Matthew Quirk's 2019 thriller novel of the same name. The book follows Peter Sutherland, an FBI agent working in the White House Situation Room, who gets pulled into a high-stakes conspiracy after answering an emergency line he was told would never ring. It's a propulsive, well-constructed thriller, the kind of novel that gets optioned for adaptation because the bones of it are just right. Clear hero, clear threat, ticking clock, and underneath all the action, a personal story about trust, loyalty, and what it costs to do the right thing when everyone around you is compromised. Netflix adapted it. Gabriel Basso stepped into the lead role, and the show landed with an impact that surprised almost everyone, including, probably, Netflix itself. It became one of the most watched English-language series in Netflix history within its first few weeks. People finished it in single sittings. They recommended it to everyone they knew. It had that quality that streaming thrillers live and die by: momentum. The kind of forward propulsion that makes it genuinely difficult to stop watching. But here's what was always lurking underneath that success. The novel is one book, one story, with a beginning, a middle, and an end that the show largely honored, which meant that when season 1 wrapped up, the writers were standing at the edge of the map. Everything charted was behind them. Everything ahead was open water. For a lot of shows, that's where the decline begins. You see it constantly. A first season that crackles because it has a strong source to draw from, followed by second and third seasons that feel increasingly uncertain, increasingly like they're searching for something they can't quite name. The Handmaid's Tale went through it. Dexter went through it. Countless others. The pattern is familiar enough that when The Night Agent was renewed and the showrunners confirmed they were moving into entirely original territory, the skepticism was understandable. And then season 2 arrived, and the skeptics went quiet. What the creative team did with the freedom of original storytelling was remarkable to watch unfold. They didn't just continue Peter Sutherland's story. They expanded the entire world of the show. They pushed the mythology of the Night Agent program deeper. They introduced new threats that felt genuinely fresh rather than like variations on what season 1 had already done. They took characters who had been functional in season 1 and gave them dimensions that the source material never had room to explore. The show started to feel like it knew who it was in a way that adaptations sometimes struggle to achieve, because adaptations are always in conversation with the original work, always aware of the audience that came in with expectations about how things should go. When you're writing original material, that conversation disappears. You're not managing expectations. You're creating them. The numbers backed this up in a way that was hard to argue with. Season 1 of The Night Agent landed at a respectable but not overwhelming score on Rotten Tomatoes. Solid enough for a mainstream thriller, nothing that suggested future awards conversation. By season 2, that score had climbed meaningfully. Critics who had described season 1 as entertaining but somewhat formulaic started using different language. Words like confident, ambitious, surprising. The audience score moved in the same direction. People who had watched season 1 as a fun diversion came back for season 2 as genuine fans. That's a reversal of the typical pattern that is genuinely worth paying attention to. Part of what makes this work is something that's easy to underestimate when you're in the middle of watching a show. The difference between a story that was designed for a single contained narrative and a story that was designed to breathe across multiple seasons. Quirk's novel is excellent at what it does, but what it does is tell one complete story. It doesn't leave deliberate threads for future exploration because it wasn't written to. The adaptation of that novel into season 1 was faithful enough that it inherited that structural completeness, which is great for satisfying a first season but creates real problems when you need to build something larger. Original storytelling, by contrast, can be designed from the ground up with expansion in mind. The showrunners, freed from the obligation of honoring source material, could make choices specifically calibrated for where they wanted the story to go in Season 3, Season 4, beyond. Every new character introduced, every conspiracy thread opened, every relationship developed. All of it could be architected with a future in mind. And audiences feel that, even when they can't articulate it. They feel the difference between a show that's making it up as it goes and a show that knows where it's heading. The Night Agent, post-Season 1, started feeling like the latter. And that confidence is infectious. Gabriel Basso deserves significant credit here as well, because the transition from adaptation to original material is also a transition for the lead actor. In Season 1, he was embodying a character that existed in readers' imaginations before he ever stepped into the role. There was a template to honor. From Season 2 onward, Peter Sutherland became fully and completely his creation. The character belongs to Basso now in a way that it didn't before. And you can see that ownership in the performance, a looseness, a specificity, a comfort in the role that makes every scene land with more weight. Now, here's where things get genuinely interesting for the future. Matthew Quirk, the author of the original novel, has a new book coming, a thriller called The Method. And the question that is already circulating in entertainment circles is whether that novel becomes the foundation for the show's future, or whether the show continues forging its own path. It's a fascinating dilemma. The show has now proven that it doesn't need Quirk's material to thrive. But The Method could offer something valuable, a new story engine, a different kind of conspiracy, a fresh set of source material that the writers could use as a launching pad rather than a rigid blueprint. The smartest approach would be a middle path. Use the method the way the best adaptations use source material, as inspiration rather than instruction. Take what serves the world the show has built and leave what doesn't. The Night Agent has earned enough creative authority at this point that it could absorb new source material on its own terms rather than being defined by it. That's a position very few shows ever reach. Season 4 is the real conversation now, and the speculation around it is genuinely exciting. The show has established a mythology rich enough to support multiple directions. There are threads from Season 3 that could be pulled in ways that expand the Night Agent world significantly. There are characters whose stories aren't finished. And there's an audience that has demonstrated across multiple seasons and multiple creative pivots that's not just willing to follow this show. It's actively excited to see where it goes next. What's remarkable, stepping back and looking at the full arc of the Night Agent's existence, is how rare this story actually is. Television is littered with the wreckage of adaptations that peaked in their first season and spent subsequent years declining gracefully toward cancellation. The pattern is so common that it has become almost an accepted fact of the industry. Source material as ceiling rather than floor. The Night Agent looked at that pattern and quietly, confidently refused to participate in it. It took the ending of one story as the beginning of a better one. It treated creative freedom not as a problem to be managed, but as an opportunity to be seized. And the result is a show that is genuinely stronger, genuinely more interesting, and genuinely more exciting than it was when it had a best-selling novel to lean on. That almost never happens. And the fact that it happened here, with this show, with this team, with this particular combination of talent and creative ambition, is the kind of thing that deserves more attention than it usually gets. Because the next time a show runs out of source material and everyone starts writing the obituary, remember the Night Agent. Remember that sometimes the map ending is exactly where the real journey begins.